Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Today we're going to take a look at the VDK Vice. Yeah, that was cheesy, but what the hell? Needed something exciting in here, right? Alright, so what we're taking a look at here today is a new knife by VDK. And you can look in the description below. You can get a direct link onto VDK's website directly to this knife so you can take a better look at it. Now, I've had a chance to show you guys VDK knives in the past. They're fantastic quality, very, very affordable, and they're always designed somewhat out of the box, as is this one. Now, when we're looking for a knife to buy, especially for collectors, there's going to be different things that we're looking for. Sometimes we just want a practical, everyday knife that has a specific use or a multitude of uses. And sometimes we don't care if it's practical. We're buying it because it's cool. This, my friends, is not a practical knife. Now, I'm not saying that with any negative connotations whatsoever. This is a really, really, really cool knife, but it's not practical. You take a look at this blade and you go, wow, it's really big and really heavy, and it's got a really small, slim handle, and most of the blade is sticking out of the handle, and well, that's just not practical. And I want you to keep that mindset when you get one in your hands, because what's going to happen is it's actually going to blow your freaking mind. What do I mean by that? You have the expectation that it's not a very practical knife, and then you're going to get it out and go, well, shit, look at that nice curvature, that belly to the blade. Look at all the different kind of cutting that I can do with this. And the thickness, the size and weight of this blade, you can actually do some light chopping with it. Even though it's not a traditional shaped blade, you've still got a point to it. It's good for piercing, it's good for chopping, it's good for slicing, it's good for rock cuts, it'd be good for draw cutting. I mean, there's so many things that this knife can actually do, and that funky shape allows you to choke up and throw your thumb on the spine and even get a little bit more force and control behind that blade. And then you realize, well, shit, it actually is a fairly practical knife. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about some of the specifics. I'm going to lay this down real quick, and I'm going to read off some of the specs on this knife so that you know what to expect, because I'm not sure if on video it looks bigger than it is or if it looks smaller than it is. I know pictures can be quite deceiving, so I'm hoping the video, at least in relation to my hands, will give you an idea that it's a compact size with a really, really, really large blade. So you're looking at a titanium frame, M390 for the steel. The blade length is 4.1 inches. Now listen to this, 4.1 inches on a knife that's only 8.3 inches overall. This knife is almost all blade. It's really, really cool the way that this was done. This particular version has the black DLC and stonewash finish over the M390. I will say this, it's a tad bit heavy. It's a hair over 5 ounces, so keep that in mind. It is not going to be a lightweight knife. It's still very easy to carry, but I want you to keep in mind it is fairly hefty. Now, this knife is $350, and what are you getting for that $350? Well, number one, you're getting the M390 steel, which we already know is a super steel. Holds a fantastic edge. It's a very tough blade steel. It's really one of the better all-around usable blade steels with a proper heat treat. You're also getting the titanium frame, but it's not just the frame. You're getting this blue shred, well, actually it's blue marbled carbon fiber, which is really, really difficult to obtain. It's not easy to get this stuff. And when you do find it, one of the challenges is it usually has a lot of voids in it that has to be filled. And if you take a good look here, you'll see that the scales are done perfectly. And I don't really want to call them scales. I need to correct myself there. These are not scales. you'll notice this is a full titanium frame lock. That means what you're seeing here that's not titanium, the carbon fiber, is an inlay. So they've milled a pocket out all the way around in that titanium frame and perfectly inlaid this carbon fiber. Now they've also done the same thing on the other side. Great lockup on this, by the way. So you get the benefit of having the beauty of the presentation side then mirrored over here on the lock side. You'll also see a really nice, I almost said carbon fiber, a really nice titanium pocket clip. Sculpted pocket clip. Works very, very well. I've carried this knife quite a few times, and it's done a really good job in the pocket. It's somewhat easy to get in and out when you're, pulling it in and out with your hands, but it's really secure in the pocket. I ride motorcycles a lot. I tend to ride more than I drive, and that's always one of the big concerns for me is having a pocket clip that's tight enough that it's going to stay in my pocket when you hike your leg up and you're throwing your leg over the bike. Different riding positions and things like that, and squatting down, checking your tire pressure. And if you're wearing jeans and it's got a fairly loose pocket clip, the jeans will actually push the knife out of your pocket. And then on the opposite side of that, you can have a pocket clip that's so tight that there's no way it's going to come out, but it's a real pain in the ass to clip it in and to get it out. And this is that perfect balance in between, where it's nice and snug in the pocket, but it's not a chore to get it in and out. There is the titanium back spacer, nicely milled. Minimalistic hardware. You only have one screw back here, one piece of hardware connecting the rear of the frame through the back spacer. Then, of course, you have the pivot, which is a nice, fairly flush, clean, plain pivot. Other side, standard Torx head, very, very easy to use if you need to make any adjustments. I mean, overall, it seems like a very, very simple knife, but you need to realize how difficult it was to get this carbon fiber in this slim thickness, to get it perfect without any voids, get it shaped properly, get it contoured properly, and finished properly to where it looks this good. They did an excellent, excellent job. The titanium frame, that finish matches the blade perfectly. Again, these are two different materials, and it's not that difficult because they're doing DLC. If this was just like a dark acid stone wash, it's very hard to match up titanium to steel finishes. But I should correct myself there. Yeah, it's a black DLC. So they're all being coated in the DLC, and then they do a stone wash, which gives you a nice user finish. It also highlights the bevels and the flats really nicely as well. So you get that little bit of highlight, makes the bevels a bit more pronounced, very pronounced harpoon swedge on there. I guess you could call it a harpoon. I mean, it's really just in the shape of the blade, but it really comes off as kind of a fatty harpoon, if you want to go for that. Very smooth action. But then again, it doesn't take a lot because, well, the blade weighs more than the frame. So the majority of the weight of this knife is in the blade. But it is glass smooth. You also got a ceramic detent there, which makes the flipping action very snappy, very solid. They've adjusted this detent perfectly. It's very, very, very easy to flip out. But it's got a nice sharp detent, so it's not just going to fly open on its own. You've got to really put a good amount of pressure on that flipper tab. And speaking of the flipper tab, look how non-obtrusive that is. It's a very low-profile flipper tab, but still very easy to access. They were smart enough to jimp the front of it, so your fingers aren't going to just slip right off of it. And while it looks like it has sharp corners on that flipper tab, they are very gently rounded off. There are actually no sharp edges anywhere on this knife except for the edge of the blade. So everything is nicely rounded where your hands are coming into contact. They did leave the spine squared, but I actually like that. It gives me a little bit more purchase right there. It's also very easy to index the knife as well. If you're just kind of reaching and fumbling, you're not looking, you can throw your thumb right there on the back and you know where your blade is at all times. So you got a fast action, a solid lockup. Let's get a good shot of that lockup. There we go. All around, you know, all I can really say about this knife is it's very, very solidly built. It's got some really nice materials. Now, it's up to you as to whether you like the aesthetic appeal, if you like the way that it's been designed. I will say this, I think the one gripe some people may have, especially for a very blade-heavy knife, you know, the balance really is toward the front. The way that this taper is so slim, I find it to be very, very comfortable in the hand, but it's got nothing to keep it in your hand. Now, I don't look at this as a hard use knife, a knife you're going to take out in the field where your hands might be wet or bloody or anything else, where the slickness, because there is no jimping anywhere on this knife that's effective. You have, I mean, this is really more of just a milled pattern, less of jimping. You don't really feel it. The only jimping is on that flipper tab. So it is a little slick in the hands because of the materials and the finish, very, very fine finish that's been done on those inlays. And because it tapers toward the rear, it's, you know, it's not really going to hook into your hand and hold on very well. So if you're using this as an EDC knife or just as an addition to your collection, that's not going to affect you. If you're buying this knife with the intention of really hard using it, in a situation where it could slip out of your hand, maybe you are taking it out in the woods and you're doing crazy shit, don't! That's not what this knife is intended for. There are many great bushcraft knives. There are many great folders that are shaped differently. You should be able to sense that. Use your common sense. That's not what this is made for. But it is worthy of noting. Now, the other thing is you do have a lanyard hole that goes all the way through the frame. You could attach a lanyard on there that you could be hooking with your pinky, or a big loop lanyard that goes around your wrist if that's the way you feel you need to secure the knife. Whatever. I look at it as it's a fun design. It's a cool talking point. It really is a good conversation starter. If you pull this out in front of your knife buddies, they're going to look at it and go, "Holy shit, look at that blade, man!" It is a big, beefy, heavy, monstrous blade in what is essentially a very compact carry knife. And it's good for EDC cutting tasks. As I mentioned at the top of the video, there's really not many things that you would need to do that this blade would not do. So in those terms, I think it's a great addition to any collection. You know, those of us that collect a lot of knives, we have a lot of knives for specific purposes. So if you are that guy that needed that field knife, you can still buy this because you've already got your field knives. You've already got your knives for certain things. This is a knife that you can carry as an EDC. And I tell you, I don't think it's going to let you down for any cutting tasks that were to pop up. Obviously, cutting out open boxes, breaking down boxes. Simple things, cutting rope, cutting string, cutting lanyards, whatever it is, there's really no limitation I don't see that this knife really has. So for the everyday guy, I think this is going to be great. And you know what? When you pull it out, the finish is impressive. This massive, tall, thick blade is impressive. The very fast, smooth action is impressive. The sound it makes when it locks up is impressive. And that marbled carbon fiber, they do it in red or blue accented marble carbon fiber, I believe is also impressive. When you look at the quality of the inlay, the way that they've been done, it's impressive. So I think all the way around, this is a great little knife. And I say little because it is compact. It just looks crazy big when you've got it open. So I just think it's a great little knife all the way around. I don't see anywhere where they cheaped out on it. They didn't put a cheap spring clip on it. They didn't put a cheap pivot in there. Even though I'm sure it's not an expensive pivot, they had the forethought to give a nice clean design that doesn't detract away from the simple lines of the entire knife. They're using M390 steel, which is a premium steel. Yes, we do see it more often now. It is on a lot of knives, but it does not take away from the fact that it's still a premium, expensive, and good quality steel. You've got the lanyard opening for those that want the lanyard. You've got minimalistic hardware. You've got a really clean build where everything feels nice, looks nice, and works properly. And what more can you really ask for? All right, guys, I'm going to cut it short with that. I think that pretty much encompasses the way that I see the knife. As far as my personal opinion, I love how it looks. I think it looks completely kick-ass. It's a badass looking design. I don't think it's a knife that I would carry every single day. However, the days that I have it on me, it's never let me down. It's cut a few things. So I don't see any particular downside to it, except for those of you that maybe you don't like a handle that tapers toward the rear. If you already know that, this knife is going to irk the shit out of you. For most of us, that's not going to be an issue. So that's really the only, it's not really a negative, but it's the only negative that I can really come up with out of this whole design. I think Vlad has done a great job of bringing another uniquely designed knife out there on the market. I think by looking at it, I think the design itself with this shape of blade is something that maybe you'd see more commonly in a fixed blade knife, and not really so much in a folder or a flipper as we're seeing here. So I like that he thought outside of the box and brought something, once again, unique to the market. There's a lot of cookie cutter designs out there in all kinds of price ranges, $25 to, $2,500. I like to see somebody that's ambitious, that's not afraid to bring out something a little bit different. And the fact that he's got it at a medium price point at $350 means that you're not really taking a huge risk to see if you like it. Once again, down below in the description, you're going to find the link directly to this knife on VDK's website for as long as they're available. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you get one of these and you have an impression of your own, please come back down in the comments and tell me what you think of it. Give me your personal opinion. I love hearing that feedback from you guys once you buy these knives. It's interesting to see how our thoughts align, or maybe they're somewhat opposed. I'm interested in seeing that. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next video.